You know, in the Roman Empire, power wasn't just about winning battles. It was about communication, about symbols, and believe it or not, one of the most powerful symbols an emperor could use was a river. Today, we're going to explore the incredible story of how a rebel leader, way out on the edge of the empire, used one single coin to completely redefine what power meant, all to protect his people and build his own version of Rome.
All right, so this right here, this is the key to our whole story. It's a small silver coin, and it wasn't minted in Rome. It was made on the chaotic, violent Rhine frontier. And its creator was a guy named Postumus, an emperor you've probably never even heard of. But trust me, this little piece of silver is an absolute masterclass in political propaganda. It's a message of survival, broadcast during a time of total collapse. And that gets us to the big question, right? Why a river? I mean, with his brand new empire on the verge of collapse, why was an image of a reclining river god the very first message Posthumus wanted to send to his people? Well, the answer shows a brilliant understanding of both how imperial power worked and what local people actually believed. Okay, so to really get what's going on with this coin, we have to rewind a bit. We've got to understand the world it came from. And that world, it was literally falling apart. We're diving into one of the most turbulent periods in all of Roman history, a time we now call the 3rd century crisis. I mean, for decades, the empire was just getting hammered by this perfect storm of disasters. The stability that had defined Rome for centuries, gone. It was replaced by fear, uncertainty, and chaos. Seriously, the very survival of the Roman world was on the table. And what's really wild about this time is how everything just fed into everything else. You had barbarian tribes constantly pouring across the Rhine and Danube rivers. In the east, a new super aggressive Persian empire, the Sasanians, was a huge threat. Emperors were rising and falling so fast you could barely keep track of them. Sometimes they'd last only a few months. And as if that wasn't enough, we now know from climate data that the weather was getting worse, which meant harvests were failing and resources were stretched thinner than ever. So, with the central government in Rome basically unable to handle it all, what happens? Well, the empire just fractures. Local generals and leaders, guys like our man Postumus in Gaul, they step into the power vacuum. They create their own so-called breakaway empires. Now, their goal wasn't really to just leave Rome behind forever. It was about providing the local protection and stability that the official emperor just couldn't deliver. For the people living there, these local guys offered a much better chance at survival.
So you've got all this chaos. How does a Roman leader, the traditional ones, show everyone they're still in charge? Let's take a look at the official Roman playbook, and specifically how they used rivers as a really powerful propaganda tool. Well, for the folks back in Rome, the writers, the poets, the emperors, rivers like the Rhine weren't just water. No, they were the very soul of the foreign lands they bordered. The thinking was, if you want to conquer the people, you have to conquer the river first, and this quote just nails it. Roman poets would write about breaking the horns of the river god Rhenus as a symbol for crushing the Germanic tribes. And this whole practice, it has a name, river personification. And look, this wasn't just some artsy thing. It was pure political messaging, a kind of visual shorthand for imperial power. By turning a river into a god and then showing that god defeated, broken, or controlled, the emperor sent a crystal clear signal that he had absolute power over nature itself and over any foreign peoples. And this coin right here, from the Emperor Domitian, it's the perfect example. Just look at it. You've got the emperor, all decked out in his military gear, looking totally triumphant. And who's at his feet? Yep, that's the Rhine River, shown as this broken, dejected guy. The message could not be more obvious. I have conquered this river, and with it, the lands and the people it represents. So the takeaway here is pretty simple, right? The standard imperial message was all about domination. Rivers were these symbols of wild, foreign chaos, and the emperor was the one strong enough to tame them, to bring Roman order for the glory of the empire. But, and this is where our story gets really interesting, because the people who were actually living along the Rhine, the soldiers, the farmers, the merchants, they had a completely different, a totally opposite relationship with the river. And it creates this fascinating clash of worldviews. You see, from Rome's perspective, the river was a conquered enemy. But for the provincials, no way. The Rhine wasn't an enemy. It was a god. It was their divine protector, literally the source of their life and their identity. They didn't see a border that needed to be controlled. They saw a powerful deity that needed to be worshipped, to be appeased. And why did they feel this way? I mean, it makes total sense when you think about it. The river's water made their fields fertile. People would go to it to perform rituals, asking the river god for health, for healing. And here's the really crucial part. The soldiers, the legions of the Rhine army, the very men who would make Postumus their emperor, they were deeply personally invested in the local cult of the river god. To them, he was the divine protector of their frontier. And here you can see what they saw. This is not that sad, defeated figure at Domitian's feet. Oh no. This is Renus Bicornus, the two-horned Rhine. Just look at that face. He is fierce, powerful, a respected local god with deep, deep roots in the community. This is the god the people of the provinces actually knew and worshipped. Okay. So now we have all the pieces of the puzzle, right? We've got the total chaos of the era, we've got the official Roman propaganda of conquest, and we've got this deep local reverence for the Rhine as a god. Now, let's get back to our coin and see how Postumus pulled off an absolute political masterstroke. Here it is again. Now look at this river god with fresh eyes. Is he defeated? Not at all. He's powerful, sure, but he's calm, he's reclining peacefully. You can see he has horns, just like the local deity. And behind him, that's the front of a boat, a symbol of trade and prosperity. This is not an enemy. This is an ally. And the slogan written on the coin just drives the point home. Salves provinciarum. It basically means the health of the provinces, or the well-being of the provinces. This isn't some boast about conquering for Rome's glory. This is a direct promise. A promise of security and a good life for the people right here, in this region. And that is the genius of it. You see, Postumus is using a visual language that everyone recognizes, the Roman coin with the personified river. But he completely flips the script. He takes the local vision of the Rhine as a divine protector and broadcasts it on an imperial medium. He basically tied the river's religious power directly to himself. When you put them next to each other, the difference is just, wow. It's so stark. Domitian's message is all about external conquest. I beat them for the glory of Rome. But Postumus, his message is about internal protection. Together, our local god and I will keep us safe. This is a huge shift in the whole philosophy of power, from imperial domination to local guardianship. This was like a laser-targeted ad. Postumus was speaking directly to the soldiers and the local people who worshipped the Rhine and who felt totally abandoned by the distant emperor way off in Rome. His message was simple, and it was powerful. The guy in Rome, he has failed you. I am here, and with the blessing of your own sacred river, I will protect you. And this whole thing leaves us with a fascinating question that really echoes through history, doesn't it? Postumus's coin suggests that when the world is falling apart, maybe the most powerful message isn't a boast about distant conquests, but a believable promise of local security. It's an incredible lesson in how the meaning of power can shift, all told on one little piece of silver.